Welcome to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community. We're going to kick it off talking about saving lost kids. We're here with Pastor Brian Callies. And Brian, let's start on your end. When you talk about your foundation, when you talk about saving lost kids, give us a little bit of a history lesson there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on the show again. So honored to be here and be your friend, Jeremy. So saving lost kids, basically, its goal that we started back in 2016 was to address the issues of missing, exploited, and sex trafficked children. And all three of those kind of come together in missing, exploited, sex trafficked. And so our first approach at that is to prevent it all from happening. Stop it all from happening at the front end. That's always the best plan, is prevention. And so typically we would go out to the community, and that's how we would do things. And we'd attend all the big events that you can think of, churches, schools, all that kind of fun stuff. But right now, COVID has shifted our focus. So we went from 300 events a year is what we finally got to in our peak so far. That's an event almost every other day. To, all right, COVID shut those things down. So let's pivot and see what we can do. And so God opened up a great opportunity for us. And basically what we're doing is we've opened up a facility. This will be the first one, just a flagship, and we're going to open up a few more. But we're opening up a facility over at the Hickory Ridge Mall, and we're calling it the Family Safety Outreach Center. And so what this facility is all the neat stuff that we were able to do out in the public. All the free child safety IDs. That's one of our big claims to fame. Everybody knows us from these professional safety IDs. All the education and training and the intervention that we do with children and parents and all that stuff we're going to be able to continue to do. But now families come to us instead of us having to go out into the public. We're doing it very COVID friendly. So we have this facility. It's got glass doors. Children and their parents or families at a time, one family at a time gets to come in. It's under scheduled appointments. So we're going to schedule them. They come in. You get whatever amount of time you need allotted. So 30 minutes to an hour, depends on what you kind of need. That's usually the average. And we'll do all that kind of fun stuff right there at the Hickory Ridge Mall.
And I think, to your point, it's a really cool pivot when you look at going out 300 events in terms of the peak, but going out and all of a sudden realizing, okay, the pandemic has shifted things. So now let's bring them in a safe environment, make it extremely accessible, have the appointments so you can do the one-on-one, health and safety, top priority. But now you're still able to do what you need to do to protect the kids and the families at the same time, do it in a creative way. And so talk about how appointments are made, talk about kind of the process, because as you alluded to, the IDs especially are really critical.
Absolutely. So it's real easy if you want to make an appointment. So you can go to our website. That's probably the first place I'd say, savinglostkids.org, savinglostkids.org. And there you'll see a little drop down that says safety centers, and click on that one. And it's the only one in the list right now. It's our first one is the Hickory Ridge Mall. Click on that and you can schedule an appointment right there. You can also call us. You can call 800-1-800-308-0607. So either one of those will get us started, and we're going to just have a quick little discussion with you about how many children are we thinking. Do we have any needs? What's the ages? And see if we can't find how much time slot we needed. And we'll find a schedule that works with you.
So when you look at education, that's a big piece of this, the child safety. Talk about advocacy, and then talk about kind of the rescuing side, if you will, too. So kind of paint the picture a little bit more in terms of overall outside of the facility, what your efforts look like.
Wonderful. So let me thank you. Great question. Let me mention something on the IDs, because it'll come into play. The free child safety IDs are not the things that you can go get from somebody handed you a kit and you go fill them out at home. These are all very professionally done. I've had a lot of law enforcement influence to create something that is really, really important. And when a child goes missing, this is like a real thing we need. So everybody is certified, everybody's got trained, everybody's on staff is kind of above what you would normally say, and everything is filled out on site. So we go the extra mile. We do a 10-point fingerprints, professional photos, DNA collection. Thanks FBI as well for giving us some feedback on how to do a great DNA collection theory. Um, Memphis Police Department, Shelby County Sheriff's Department helped us to get some of our other ideas down. So we do, heights and weights and all kinds of data collection, we got scent detection now, we got bite mark impressions, everything that we could possibly ever want if a child goes missing. But to the point of what you were saying, what we want to do is prevent it first, right? So that's why we have the outreach center. You come in, we've got literally 46 different types of handout information just specific to your child. So we got wherever your child's at, 46 different options of what will connect you to safety. And that's our goal. We're also going to do an intervention, one-on-one intervention with every child. Try to find out where that disconnect is, where their safety mark is. Like, okay, that's as far as he or she knew. So now let's get them 2 steps beyond that. And then we show the parents what red flags to look out for. Really important when you're talking about sex trafficking. So we'll move forward a little bit. So if you don't focus on prevention, most parents that I hear say, oh, do we really have a problem? Okay, absolutely. We officially have a problem, not just Memphis, not just Shelby County, but I mean the entire world. So sex trafficking is where I think everybody ends up thinking about this. Number 1 fastest growing crime in the world. Sex trafficking in the United States is the 3rd fastest growing crime in the world. You've heard of guns and drugs, and now is sex trafficking. So huge problem, whether it's a small town, big town. So what we do is we focus on prevention first. We also have a search and rescue team where we help to do exactly that, help find kids that are missing and help search and rescue side when children get caught up in sex trafficking. And then we have a 3rd piece of what do you do with them after you recover them? How do you help them afterwards? And we found out that if you don't do something to truly help them afterwards, the cycle starts over again, right? They haven't learned anything on prevention, and they're now very vulnerable because they've been broken, because they've been missing before, sex trafficked before, abused before, something. And it starts a cycle. So usually when we rescue a child now, we're seeing it 2, 3, 4 times that we've had to rescue them from different situations because nobody's fixed the problem. So we still have the same issues, same ACEs is what we call them. So brokenness inside of them, still have those. Probably the same parents, same friends, same school, same church, neighborhood, everything, nothing's changed. So when we find and rescue that child and put them back, it just starts the cycle. So what we want to do is stop it, and we want to go back to prevention. Let's work on prevention. But we also have a rescue facility I was able to mention at our last time we had an interview with you about. We're building right now the largest care facility, long-term care facility for sex trafficked girls in the country, the biggest one that's ever been done in the country. And right now it's going to be in Arlington. We know that. We know the location of it. We're going to keep it undisclosed for right now as far as location. I'll just say it's in Arlington. And 50 acres so far, probably expanded up to another 20. We're going to have 18 buildings. We'll be able to house 50 girls. And so it's going to be a great opportunity to hopefully heal and give back some of that innocence back to the child, help them to realize that they're cared for and they're loved and God loves them and they're here for a purpose, and men aren't really supposed to be the way they were treated and all of that stuff, and heal them to a point where they can kind of go back onto their lives and back up.
What advice would you give or tips would you give for the community when you look at the work that you're doing? And already, you can tell like there's so many nuances to this, right? And like you said, you have to do the prevention. And at the same time, if you don't look at the whole cycle, it will cycle again. And so when you look at this work, what are some bits of advice or tips that you would offer to the public to be more intentional with how we can help to be a part of the solution?
I'll break it down a little bit. As far as parents go, it would be great if parents thought ahead of time to think about their child's safety, where they kind of lay that in the lap of maybe schools thing or law enforcement thing. It doesn't work that way. Almost always the child has a part to play in how how it plays out, right? So of all the children that went missing last year, roughly, if you're going to look at the estimates and the numbers, over 90% were runaway. All right. Why were they running away? See? Okay, well, then let's rewind that. And it's always about rewinding the clock. So if I can get parents connected to their children in a communication way, in a nurturing way, most parents would say, well, my child ever tried to run away, I'm going to punish them. Okay, well, if that trick works for you, great. But for the most part, it isn't going to work that I've ever seen. So let's come up with a different theory. Let's come up with a different communication technique. Usually the children say the same thing. My parents don't listen to me. And so they don't talk to their parents about problems. So they end up going to somebody else to talk to about their problems. And that person a lot of times is a bad guy. And so we don't want to go that way. So that communication step is huge. If you'd like to work with us, Saving Lost Kids, typically when we do big events, we had thousands of volunteers that we always needed. We don't need as many volunteers right now with this kind of side. One of the two biggest things you can do is become a donor, kind of like St. Jude. So basically that's how we work off, is just like St. Jude. A monthly donor is amazingly important for us. And a connector is amazingly important. So you might have somebody that, hey, I know you guys are building all this stuff. So let me connect you. I've got this guy who's really great at roofs. Maybe he'll donate a roof to one of the 18 buildings or something. And being that connector that way really, really helps us more than you know. We don't have as many volunteer opportunities right now, unless you are interested in maybe coming to the center and being trained as a trainer, as a counselor support agent like that. So.
Dive in deeper on that. What does that training entail? So if someone says, hey, that sounds really exciting, what does that entail?
We kind of start off slow, so we'll see where your things are. So there's a lot of steps in the ID process that we have to do. So those are kind of mechanical, right? Teach you how to do fingerprints, teach you how to do DNA collection. That's teach you how to do the photo and put it all together in the little passport for safety, as we call it. That's more of a mechanical thing. So people who are into that are great. What's hard for us to find is somebody who's good at that intervention. We want to intervene with every child that comes in. So what we do is you got to kind of learn a lot of little steps of safety. And then you find out where that child's safety line is. They know these two first ones, but they don't know the third one. So you start there and you're going to teach them two things, and then teach the parents how to teach that and continue it. So that's a little bit harder because it's not just anybody, just putting together some fingerprints or something. You're really having to think about it, but we're really looking for some people that are able to kind of take that mantle and want to learn first on the front end on how to teach, and you'll be mentored. So you'll have a mentor person that you're going to follow along, and then you'll do it together for a while, and then eventually you'll be able to kind of be on your own.
How has this work changed you personally?
Oh, wow. Okay. So the reason I got into it, I went to God a couple, 4.5, 5 years ago now. And I said, well, all right, you give me something. Here's the reins. You give me something I didn't know, right? I didn't think of, didn't come up with, right? So he said, go save lost kids. And I thought he was crazy because what do I know about that? And what's funny is now, 5 years later, it is absolutely the most important thing I've ever done in my life. I honestly thought this was being handled and taken care of. And, what's he getting me into? But it is the absolute best thing I've ever done. I wake up now thinking about it, not as a job. I think about it in the morning. I think about it when I go to bed. It's just constantly a part of my life now. When you save a child's life, it will radically change your whole world. Not just when you rescue them. Let me tell you about one. Can I tell you, do I have time for one quick story?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I was at this one facility, or at was it apartments? It's a couple of years ago. I'm at this apartments, and there's a little 13-year-old girl there, and spoke to her, and she was asking why we're here. And again, I think it's probably that God thing, because God gives us a lot of insight sometimes. But I just asked her point blank. We don't normally do this. Have you ever thought about running away? And she turned white, and her mother, the person right next to her, is freaking out, of course. And I said, well, tell me, what was your plan? What was your ideas? And their ideas, of course, are going to run away and they're going to get on a bus and they're going to go somewhere where there's nobody they know. See, that's where their plan stopped, right? So that's where they're headed. They're going to just get on a bus and they're already packed and they're ready to go. And from where we sit, we see the train wreck coming, right? We see them walking off the cliff and we can do something about it. So that little intervention, well, let's go get grandma down. Let's talk to grandma and let the child and the grandma try to work it out. And let's get a counselor. I'm going to get a counselor for you guys because that's one of the things we do as connections. We're going to get a counselor and help stop that. Now, we stopped her from making a really, really bad, unsafe decision that most likely would have led to something that we would have to go rescue and heal. But just because we were there, just because we cared enough to make that intervention, we changed the course of that girl's life. You just can't knock it.
Yeah, and there's so much good insight there too, in terms of, like you said before, the communication with the parents, the dialogue, the children not thinking things through. And, we as adults can see things, but knowing, okay, wait a second, we need to intervene, and then how to obviously intervene appropriately. So there's so much to this, but go ahead and wrap up and talk about your website and where we can go to raise our hand to get involved with everything you're doing and help.
Wonderful. So our website is Saving Lost Kids. We started off our name, just so everybody knows, if you see it, Brian Callies Foundation. And that became kind of like, how St. Jude and ALSAC, that's our ALSAC is Brian Callies Foundation. But Saving Lost Kids is what we got to be known for. So that's our kind of our new name. And it's savinglostkids.org. You can call us 800-308-0607. You can find us on Facebook. Hit us up on that. I haven't been as good on Instagram and some of those others, but we're always showing these pictures of these kids that are missing from this local area. And if you could share those pictures, that's the key of when we're going to find them, is almost always by the pictures. So it means so much to us to go ahead and share those pictures out as we continue to expand these programs out. And we'd love to have you be a part of us, be a part of our team. Either financially, if that's your thing, just like St. Jude, become a part of our support team that way. Or if you're interested in volunteering, we're going to spin up 2 more of these safety centers at least here in Memphis. And this year, that's the plan. So we're always looking for those coaches, those specialists that are going to be able to actually talk to the children and help them to get closer to safety.
Well, Pastor Brian, thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, buddy. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate everything, man. It's a pleasure to be here.